Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's exclusive analysis. In today's video, we're discussing copper and lumber, two of the most used commodities in the housing market across the world. So starting with Dr. Copper, why is copper important? Well, copper is an essential metal in many different markets. The housing market, the EV market, the utility market, basically everything that we know today in our society and use, whether it's from computers and smartphones to vehicles, it requires a great deal of copper. So it's extremely important to pay attention to this market. So looking at the copper futures, we're trading at 365. This is the weekly chart. One thing I want to pay attention to is copper has broken this March 2020, I call this the COVID trend line. So this was your March 2020 freak out collapse. Before the money printing started, copper went on this huge parabolic run. And basically you've had a big sell-off off of the inflationary, the rise in the dollar, the big stock market sell-off. You've had a bounce, you've put in lower highs, so note that. Here's your high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So you have four lower highs in the trend. Here's your low, here's your higher low, here's your higher low, here's your higher low, and you have four higher lows. So it's a very balanced trend, which is why we've created this little bit of a wedge pattern. And it looks to me right now that we are actually attempting to break this pattern to the downside. And why is this important? Well, this could signal more of a disinflationary move in the overall and global economy. If copper starts to sell off, that could mean that there's going to be less demand in the housing market, less demand in the consumer market, less demand in the industrial market, and so on and so forth. So it's often a good barometer for the overall strength in the economy. All right, let's move along to the daily chart of copper. One thing I want to show you is we have this rounding head and shoulders formation. So you have this rather large left shoulder, you have this beautiful big head, and you have this right shoulder. So if you were to draw on the weekly chart, you can also see this head and shoulders topping formation. So if we were to draw this pattern correctly from the left shoulder down there, that would be your neckline. You've actually bounced the neckline there, triggered a weekly close below the neckline. You have not confirmed, but any lower weekly close below this weekly candle over here basically sets up for a potential move in the copper market. A move, if you draw this just quickly in, this move could send us all the way down to 272 on the charts. And that would be a pretty big deflationary event. But needless to say, this is a clear weekly topping formation in play, and it is very vulnerable if this is to play out to the downside. Looking at the monthly flag, notice how we were never ever able to close above this wide range red bar, even after you had multi months of rally, and now you're looking to potentially break down again. So copper's kind of on the fritz of potentially losing its place here, and we could see a bigger move to the downside. Some of the copper stocks that I like to trade and look at just for cross confluence: Freeport-McMoRan, FCX. One thing I will show you is we have this weekly potential flag pattern that did break out. Now it's retraced back down to the breakout zone. You can see this is the breakout, this is the wedge channel of the flag pattern. You're retracing back down to the breakout zone. If you lose this, you likely go back down to the low end of this flag pattern, and that would not be good. If you look at the weekly or the daily chart of FCX, notice how FCX Freeport-McMoRan has actually also triggered that topping formation. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, broke the neckline, retraced to the neckline here, and you got rejected. Now it looks to be that FCX wants to retrace back to the neckline again. But since you got rejected once, there's a very strong probability that you could get rejected again, especially if it coincides with rejection of copper at this neckline. So really pay close attention to it. One particular channel trend that I'm watching in copper, if we remove all of these lines just to clear it up here for us. So remove the head and shoulders. Let's assume that that's not there. That pattern isn't playing out right now. This is the trend channel that I am watching. You've had highs, lows, highs. It makes sense in the channel to basically try to retest a move all the way back down to the low end of this channel. Maybe it's at the exact double bottom or at this kind of double bottom 324, but it does leave reason considering this is now forming a series of lower highs in a little bit of a downtrend, losing key moving averages. It does make sense for at least one more leg lower to occur in the overall copper market. All right, let's move along to lumber. So lumber is interesting too. The lumber daily chart here, one thing I want you to pay attention to is, what is this pattern? We just saw it on copper. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, triggered, rejection off neckline. You basically take out this low and lumber's probably going to shoot for this gap fill at 393. So that signals more deflationary or disinflationary trends in the overall economy. And again, lumber is one of the main requirements for housing. We use a roughly 20,000 square feet of board and feet of lumber to build a house, which is an extreme amount of lumber. And if housing sales are declining, which it should correlate with the rising yields, the lumber market is also showing that there's going to be less demand, more disinflationary pressures. And typically, that does not bode well for stocks, especially in the latter half of the disinflationary event. You may get, due to the disinflationary forces in some of the commodities like copper and lumber and some of the other base metals, you may get that initial trend that stocks, tech stocks like because they're cheaper base metals, mining companies are benefiting more. But in that latter half of that disinflationary pressure, typically that is more bearish for stocks. So definitely pay attention to copper, pay attention to lumber, because right now they are signaling some pretty intense signals for the overall global economy and stock market ahead. Take care, everybody. Please give this video a big like down below. If you're interested in to see how I'm trading this both on the long and short side, definitely look into our Trading Capital Alert service, where you can find on our website at tradingcapital.ca.